This is Jacob with Kinnettic Kreations. Today we're working on the CF Moto ZForce 950 Sport. It's a Gen 2, so it's a smaller chassis. It's the same as the Trail model if you got one of those. Our kits, they'll come with a rear harness that runs to the rear taillights, so we can control those. The horn and the CF Moto horn adapter, and our turn signal controller specific to this model and another one. This is the U4 600 uses the same module. Then you have two options for controlling it. One, we have our turn signal lever with a bracket we designed so it mounts to the factory column. You got horn up or left and right and hazards. It comes with a set of bolts to attach to the bracket, and then a little adapter to go from this to the machine itself for the switches. And then that plugs right into the factory switch connectors. Or you can go toggle switches. We got horn, turn signal, hazards. These also plug right into the factory connectors. And for the front, they do have amber lights built into these. Not every model has that, but we also offer lights to put on the side. And we got options here. There's a little splitter that plugs into the headlight plug, and you can get two small 3/4 inch rounds, two larger 1 1/4 rounds, or we got these little, they're about 3/4 tall, 4.5 inch wide smoke lights. That's what this customer chose to go with. So first we'll be installing our rear harness. We got to take this back panel off with the taillights on it. First, this bar has to come off. On either side there's a pair of bolts that require a 13mm socket, and then this has to come off as well. It's got a T30 Torx bit. Then up top there's a series of bolts that require a 5mm Allen head. I think that's it, so let's get at it. Get the bar out of the way. Allen head's 5mm. And I forgot there's it at? Right here. There's another bolt on each side. It's also a T30 Torx. Same as those four. Angle it out. Now that it's hanging here, you can get to the access of the plugs. You need to unplug both taillights, squeeze and pull. And then on these, there's a little clip here. Probably going to come out sideways. And on the back of this thing, you squeeze this clip up to come off. And this one you pop down. So now we have our rear harness. Simply plug the right taillight in. And we'll also plug in the left taillight. This connector will plug into taillight connector. This connector will plug into this one that we took off. So to pull this blinking plug out, just clip it, unplug it. In the meantime, we will secure this harness to the cover. It goes in there all nicely. And this plug is for backup light, which will show you. The plug will come right through this hole where the bracket was. So you got P-clips, some screws. Throw those in the kit as well. Alright, now we got a rear harness on here. Plug it on the right side taillight, left side taillight. You got your P-clamps to keep it from sagging down. And then it's hanging there. We're going to put it back on. It popped off pretty easy, but when you're going to put it back on, this spot here has a tuck inside of here on each side. So between your fender flare and this nut, that makes it a little tricky. So what we can do on the side here, same T30 as before, can pop. Pop 3 of these off. And now push this down. You got room to get that thing in there on both sides. I already popped this side out. So get this thing on there. So when you go to put this on, plug in this connector, plug in the gray connector, and you have to plug this in first. It's got a special slot on here that won't let you plug it in or unplug it. And it's clipped to your bracket. I want to make sure the harness stays above this piece. And this gray one can slide back on sideways, lock it on. This white one goes down like so. Now we'll start putting it back in. You gotta make sure this tucks up under the middle. And the size is step 1. Now you're putting this back up in there. Here's the spot I was telling you about. So this has to go above that. So right here you got a little gap. That'll help that get into place. Now we can pop these fender flares back up. And she is back on. I'll start with our 5mm bolts. Everything lines up. Our T30 back out. Won't be able to put these in by hand very easy. Back to the other side, put the fender flare bolts back in this side too. You got these 2 that go up. Make sure you put that on the right way. Four bolts on either side. 2 bolts on either side, 4 total. Let's see. Let's go down here. There the back harness is in. Alright, so up front, this hood part pops off. Let's grab in the back, there's 2 grommets there that you yanked out. So the horn plug's down here. What you can do is you can release it. There's a clip on the bottom. So we get up here. So here's the clip. If you push down, it comes off of its bracket. And on the front, you pry up on here, and you can pop this little blinking plug out. Don't need that. And then our horn adapter just simply plugs right into there. So it clips. And then you can go back down below. There's actually quite a bit of room back here behind the radiator hose. So you can get your arm up here and get right on it. There's the big one, here's the little one. And you just want to push up on that clip on the back. It comes right off so you can get to it. So you might need a screwdriver or whatnot. So we're going to mount the horn to the bottom bolt on this radiator cap mount. You get a 10mm wrench. Alright, got the bolt off. So now with the horn, we have our horn adapter plugged in. These 2 spades go in here in any order. There's no polarity. You want to make sure you get it on the metal contact and not next to it, or you'll be wondering why your horn doesn't work in a little bit. And we'll finagle it up here. We'll take our wrench, tighten this nut or bolt. Our horn is mounted securely and plugged in. So the horn is right down there, and the connector's here, and the harness loops to it. Make sure it doesn't go in your fan or anything dumb. There's not much down there that you can get into trouble with. Alright, so now we're going to get our lever mounted. It pinches this bolt and it goes onto one of these. So this first step, and drop this down. First we need to get this the instrument panel off. It uses, there's some 10mm nuts on the back side. They're not very tight, clearly. Careful not to drop them. They like to disappear if you do. So this cover stays in there. The harness goes through it. And then the panel comes out. And you unplug it, push in here, and pull. And same on the bottom. Now you put this somewhere safe where it's not going to get dropped. So now, we need our lever. So our lever will go right here like so. So you need to get this bolt out. So we got this bracket off. It's got 10mm nut on one side. The bolt head is also a 10mm. So pop this bolt out. We don't need that one, because our kit comes with a longer one. Now our bracket will go on. It hits this a little bit, so what you gotta do is loosen that up with your Phillips screwdriver. If you're lucky someone didn't already strip it out like this one is. There we go. Alright, so we got the bottom bolt out. What we need to do is take the new bolt. I like to run it through the bracket first. Run it through the CF Moto cluster bracket. Get the gas strut lined up. Put their washer back on. Now we got the lock bolt, lock nut. Oh, be aware of these, so it's probably safer to pop the spacers out. I dropped one and you don't want to be losing parts. Pop them out of up here. And because of this bracket, our bracket is a little tight. So you have to finagle it to get this to line up. It's a bit tight. Push a little bit to get this bolt hole lined up. There we go. We've been dropping the bolt. It's going good. We got the rear on, we got the horn on, levers going on. All that's left is plugging the module in and then adding the front lights. So you got the top bolt tight, bottom one takes a 4mm Allen wrench. We'll run our cable up through here, and then this little panel just popped off. Pull up in the front. It's got a connector on it. It's snapped on pretty good, so we'll just let it hang, and we'll get our harness up here. We'll put our display back on. Here's that Phillips bolt. So you can see this one's already pre-rounded from the factory. That's where our little hex head goes with the 8mm socket, and then our bolt comes through. And there's the lever. So we got our connector here from our lever. We need to find the turn signal connector and the horn connector. So you go up in here, there's 3 connectors here. They're all the same. They plug into the factory CF Moto switches. Nice thing is they are labeled. The only problem is, as you can see, they're labeled in Chinese, so that's not very helpful. but we can ID them by the wire colors. This one here has blue with a gray tracer, black and brown, orange with a gray tracer, and then in the bottom row it's got blue and white and then a green. That one's the turn signal switch. That one we want. This one here we got a black and brown, and in the bottom we got this, it's like a light bluish, light green with a dark green tracer. You got blue, white, and you got green. That's the horn connector. So we need that. And this other one's got black and white. It's got pink and white, blue and white, and green. That would be for the hazards, which with the lever we don't actually need. So these are the two you want. So make sure the colors are correct. So now we got our lever adapter. So start, this plugs into our lever. Turn signal switch plugs into the one that has the orange, the black, and the blue in the top row. And then our horn goes in this other one. This one we gotta do a little work on because CF Moto wired these connectors differently from the U-Force to the Z-Force. So we need this wire to match the baby blue, which is in the bottom row. Put this in. Push the lock in until it clicks. And then we have the cavity plug. You put it in the other hole, and we plug that in. So now we can actually test. Oops. The horn. We still have to plug in our module, which controls the blinkers. So we will do that now. All right. So now we're going to plug in our module. It's got brake switch. This will go under the hood. On this model, it's actually really easy to find. It's like they put it up there for us to find. And it needs to. These go underneath here. So you get up under here. There's this one hanging. So you need to unplug it. You don't need that part. And then the other one is above the gas pedal. It's an 8-pin one. They just got wrapped around the harness. So, unplug that. So now clearly, plug the 9-pin, the 2 wires in it, into there. It's easier to do with 2 hands. And then the 8-pin go in here. So in our module, we'll stuff it up here and we'll zip tie it to this part of the harness. And the brake connectors should be able to fit out this hole. Under here. So there's the 8-pin. Here's the 9-pin. And our brake connectors shove right out that slot. One of them goes through easy. The other one you got to push a little bit. It gets caught on their tabs on the side. So our module plugged in. Got the 8-pin there, 9-pin there. Then up here, shove the connectors through for the brake switch. The one goes through pretty easy. The other one's a tight fit. Stick it in there sideways, pop it through. It'll flex. So now the hole that they came out of is right there. I get it up here. Here's the connector we want to plug into. So they actually made it easy to find on this machine. The U-Forces, they just kind of zip tie it up with 55 other connectors in a bundle. You have to dig through it to find it. Here's the brake switch connector. Plugging it isn't the easiest thing. Here we go. You want to make sure it says connector series. These white locks like to pop out and stay in there. So make sure it's up in there. So we'll feed this up right above where the horn's mounted. We plug it in line with the connector. So that just plugs in line with it. And one down there. Comes out that hole and goes over. Nothing really to zip tie it to, but where it's hanging, it's safe. Now, adjust our turn signals. Here we go. Got ambers on up front. Left. We'll go right. All we have left to do is mount our smoke lights here. Plug them in. Put the cluster back in. We'll zip tie up some stuff there and tidy everything up. For this part, they made this easy. Here is the headlight connector. Simply unplug that. Same thing, make sure this stupid white lock doesn't pop out. We have our splitter. So this just plugs into the headlight. Plugs into here. And this connector plugs in all of our lights. So we're going to do that on both sides. We'll mount this, plug it in, and we'll put this guy right here. The purpose of having a side marker is if someone's coming up on your side, they can see what your intent is. Back here, they'll see your tail light. But if they ever get like in your blind spot or any other reason, you want someone to see where you're going. This works good from the front and the side partially, but it does not get the side. So we always recommend doing a nice side marker on it. Because the point of these kits, although they're cool and all that, is to be visible so you don't get hit. You're probably going to lose a battle even against one of my neons out there. I don't know how well these would hang up. Anything bigger than neon would definitely be SOL. So, the purpose of these blinker kits is, there's safety. For these, all I have to do is drill a hole here that this connector can go through. You always want to make sure behind where you're drilling is wide open, so on this machine, this whole area is safe. There's nothing back there. There's no wiring. There's no gussets. There's no mounting bolts. Once you get down here, you're interfering with the back of the headlight and probably don't want to drill into the side of your headlight. So we'll put this guy right here and mount it. So these connectors only need about a 5/8 hole on the big round lights. The big and small ones, they have the same size hole. You need a 3/4 inch hole for these grommets to snap into. But you only need a 5/8 hole for this, so since our smoke lights are only 5/8 wide, since our smoke lights are only 3/4 inch wide, I usually go a little bit smaller, just big enough for this connector to go through. So we'll use our step drill. This one, if you shoot it through, is 3/4, so I'll leave 2 spots open. Center it. We'll drill the hole, center it up and down, and I'll measure 4.5 inches from here to the middle of this part. That way it's going to be centered on both sides. Our connector can go through. Peel this double-sided tape crap off. And we got some screws that we'll put in here. Our kits will come with. All I got to do on the back side, plug it in. It's a little splitter we just added. So these kits, if you order the smoke lights, they'll come with 5 of these little screws. In case you drop one. I don't know how that goes. If you drop 2, then I guess shame on you, but get this lined up over the hole, centered. And take a number 1 Phillips or little guns. You got to be careful. If you put them on a surface that's not perfectly flat, you run the risk of cracking them. So they got the squishy in there. So I like to leave them a little snug but a little loose. I'll put the other bolts in. The other screw, I guess. Tomato. So yeah, you don't have to crank them hard, but now that's lit up. And if you got your left blinker on, no matter where you're standing, you can see tail light. If you're up this way, you can see that flashing. So, like I said, it's all about being seen and being safe on top of, looking sleek. So we'll put one on the other side, and then we'll make sure everything's good to go on here, and then we'll tackle an optional reverse light kit. Another thing we have built into our kits, most of them anyways, depends on the machine. A lot of the CF Motos, they have backup lights already. You got these little guys here. But sometimes you need something brighter than that. So we got this little guy. Now in this unit, with this bar here, it's a perfect addition. So, standard bar clamp that you got these off Amazon to try out. And this connector plugs right in. You might have to do, the hole's not big enough. So this would have been a thing where when his bar was off, you'd shove it through there. We would just loosen up the one side. Alright, so what you want to do is run this connector right by the pipe. If you take these two bolts out, the pipe moves enough to get it through the hole. And then our harness here, we have this connector. So just plug them in. And now, let's adjust up and down to loosen that. But we will shut the garage door. So here we are, we got the lights off. And got left. You can see the tail lights flashing. Right side is not. And go right. Right side is flashing. Left side is not. We got our beep beep. Hazards. And both of them going back here. And of course, brakes come on like they're supposed to. And reverse lights. As you can see, the puppy is bright. So if we go unplug it, so it's unplugged. Not too bad. It's actually pretty decent factory brake light or backup lights on these. It's definitely much brighter when you plug ours in. So that's an optional add-on we'll have on the website for a backup light kit. It will come with the light and one of the little mounting brackets. So all you gotta do is mount it when you're
Putting the bar back in at the very end, you can mount the light and put it on.
And last but not least, can't forget to put our cluster back on. It's pretty easy. Plug it in. These connectors are the same connector family, but the slots are in different spots, so they're keyed different. They do that so you can't easily plug them in. I'm sure if you wanted to, you could get them plugged into the wrong spot. But I was probably going to throw codes because I plugged it in with it on. It's easier if you're steering wheel straight up and down. Plug it in. Make sure you got these little metal inserts back in there if you took them out earlier or they fell. And the cover kind of clamshells it together. You got your two little nuts. The 10mm socket. Tighten them down. And there we have it. And of course, your dash indicators. With the way that this gets wired up and the front lights are running lights, they are also tied electrically on the vehicle to the blinkers. So the side effect of how easy our kit is to install and having the running lights on all the time up front, these stay on too. So that is normal, and I guess a small price to pay to not have to splice and then have the cool running lights up front so you're seen all the time.